So everywhere you look in 2025, there's a podcast, whether it be Andrew Huberman's Huberman Lab, Stephen Bartlett's Diary of a CEO, or Alex Cooper's Call Her Daddy. Podcasts are everywhere. And the reason for this is that podcasts are absolutely huge money. People listen to them for 1 to 2 hours with their headphones in, completely distraction free. And advertisers recognize the value of that attention. In fact, companies like Athletic Greens and BetterHelp have literally built their entire business on the back of podcast advertising. Streaming platforms like Spotify and YouTube will pay podcasters like Joe Rogan hundreds of millions to bring their audiences to their platforms. All this means that the value of you listening or watching to someone's podcast is extremely high, and because of that, a whole industry has developed to grab your attention and get you listening. In fact, I've been part of this industry for the last 3 years, and last year alone, I was paid over $700,000 by big podcasters to hack your attention. I've created systems and processes that get tens of millions of views and listens every month. And so in this video, I'm going to run through 5 of my favorite strategies that they use to get you to listen. You'll understand the content and marketing tricks that they use. And more importantly, you'll be in a position to use them in your own podcast, content, or marketing. I will warn you that strategies 1 through to 5 are all a little bit triggering, but remember that most marketing involves some form of manipulation and normally plays into psychological triggers and desires of humans. We're a bit of a flawed species. Okay, let's get into it with the Diary of a CEO, one of my favorite podcasts, and let's start with their YouTube videos, in particular their thumbnails. This is the first thing you see when you come across one of their podcast episodes. These thumbnails are not left to chance. While most YouTubers will post a video with 1 thumbnail and hope for the best, and more advanced users will post 3 to 5 thumbnails and run a test, the Diary of a CEO tests hundreds of thumbnails before the episode is even released. These are run as Facebook ads running multiple variations of text and facial expressions. And what this enables the Diary of a CEO to do is that when they post a video, they know that it's going to have the highest possible click-through rate. What's even cooler is they can run these tests before they even record episodes to pre-validate what are going to be the most interesting topics to talk about with their guests, and even to check if it's worth doing a podcast episode on a certain topic. Now, the Diary of a CEO has come in for a lot of criticism for its thumbnails, and there are 1 or 2 examples where maybe it's gone too far. But ultimately, the real problem here is you, literally the consumer. Humans like to click on things that give them a quick fix, something that's shocking, something that's salacious, something that gives them an outcome very easily. And so really they're just playing into human psychology and what makes people click. And all of the thumbnails on their page are 100% data driven. They give the people what they want. So remember this whenever you're making content or marketing something, give people what they want. And it often requires something shocking or jaw-dropping to grab people's attention. I'll let you into another of their secrets when we come to point 4. But now let's come on to my second favorite strategy, the reactive episode. And Chris Williamson is a great example of this. What we do is we take a live news event or something that's just happened, a broken story like the Trump assassination, and we very quickly release a 1 to 2 hour episode on that topic. Whenever I do this with my clients, those episodes chart in their top 10 episodes of all time. And the reason for this is that humans love to be first to something. They love to be part of the story, feel like they know something ahead of everyone else. And when you go with these reactive topics, these news topics, you enter the news cycle. Everyone wants to know what happened with the assassination. And here's an in-depth piece of media, 1 to 2 hours, where it's unpacked. Another great example of this is Stephen Bartlett's AI episode. There's a huge amount of interest around AI, and he records an emergency episode, something you've got to listen to understand this topic that you're hearing loads about. The amazing thing about podcasting is the length of these conversations, 1 to 2 hours. And this means there's very little competition. Very few people are making content at this length. And so with reactive episodes, if you can be the first to do a 1 to 2 hour episode on a breaking story, there is literally no competition. So if you're thinking about using this in your own content, try to break into mainstream media narratives, big stories that are going to capture a lot of people's attention, and try to be first with an in-depth piece of content. With these episodes, people also just love to hear opinions on things that have just happened. My third favorite strategy that big podcasts use is the content waterfall system. And Lex Fridman is a great example of this. So not only does he produce a 1 to 3 hour episode, but that episode will create 10 10-minute clips for YouTube, 20 1-minute clips for Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, 5 5-minute clips for Facebook, and then all other kinds of content for different platforms. So one piece of content turns into 100 pieces of content. And just as we know with a product, you need to interact multiple times with a brand before you purchase, the same is true of a podcast. So I might see a clip of Elon Musk and Lex Friedman on Instagram and think, oh, Elon Musk is on Lex's podcast, I should give that a listen. The next day, I might be on Twitter and see a 5-minute clip of the interview. Later that evening, I might see a breakdown on LinkedIn. And finally, the next day, I'll listen to the full-length episode on Spotify. The beauty of the content waterfall system is you get all these little touch points with your audience and all these little reminders that they should listen to an episode. Not only do the podcasters I work with have their own social channels to facilitate this, but they actually pay affiliates on a pay per results basis for views on affiliate channels. And that's why you'll see on TikTok that some podcasts have literally 20 channels. This is a controversial technique first pioneered by Andrew Tate. And so if you want to use this with your content, remember, you've got to be across multiple platforms so you're constantly hitting your audience. Okay, number 4 is the trailer. And this is something again pioneered by Stephen Bartlett's Diary of a CEO. He uses them to promote episodes and as introductions to episodes, and they're super powerful for hacking your attention. They have a whole framework around this. It starts with the hook, then the lesson, then the emotional roller coaster, and then the cliffhangers. So the hook is a really attention-grabbing statement that summarizes the episode. You can think of these hooks as a slap around the face. They are that good at grabbing your attention, but then make sure they deliver the lesson. So this is something really valuable, either a really valuable piece of information or even just a salacious story, something to win the trust of the viewer. Wow, I just learned something really cool or really interesting. They then take you on an emotional roller coaster from extreme high to extreme low, and this is to make you really feel something. And then they'll make sure there are 3 to 4 cliffhangers. So these are hints at extreme value that you're going to get more lessons if you listen to the full episode. What's so powerful about these trailers is A, they drive huge interest on social, but more than that, it's that they make you listen to the end of the episode so you can close those loops that you heard in the trailer. This makes sure that the average view duration of a Diary of a CEO podcast episode is extremely long, and the YouTube algorithm will push this content out to more and more people. I absolutely love these trailers. I think they're masterpieces, and there's so much you can learn from them. One is obviously the hook, grabbing attention. The second thing is giving people real value. And the third thing is hinting at more value if you take the next steps or listen all the way through to the end. They are such a powerful marketing tool. Again, they do come in for a bit of criticism for maybe being over the top, but the 7 million subscriber YouTube channel and over 500 million podcast views tell the real story. They work. Okay, so the 5th strategy is guest selection and collaboration. This is a really interesting one because when I first started working with big podcasters, I assumed they just pick their friends as guests. Actually, the best podcasters have a strict criteria for who their guests can be. There's normally a minimum requirement that a guest must have over 1 million Instagram followers, that they are prepared to come on and share an exclusive story or a piece of new information. And for some of the big podcasts, they will only have published authors. Now, the reason that the biggest podcasts in the world are all guest driven is that this gives them something extremely powerful: collaboration. Every episode gives them the opportunity not only to reach their existing audience, but to enter the guest's audience. This explains why they target people with over 1 million Instagram followers. The rollout and promotional plan for the podcast can be teased to that audience. This criteria gives the podcasts 3 things. One is a new audience, which they can reach with every episode. The second thing is a new information or exclusive story that audience will not have heard before. And the third thing is that published authors, people who have really thought about their ideas, tend to be better at articulating them and retaining people's attention. It also means that they're sharing pre-validated ideas that have probably sold millions of copies as books, and ensures that these topics will land with a podcast audience. If you'd like a copy of this 5-step playbook, I will put one in the description, and let me know what you think in the comments. I would love to hear what you think and if you've noticed any strategies that podcasters are using to hack your attention.